Starting off with the Triumph, and to my untrained eye, this looks like a hell of a race and a tricky one to call.
I think it's a brilliant race. It's incredibly open. I think it's a classier race than we've had for a few years. But without a real standout at the same time. I think there's the overall quality of the race is probably a better race than usual. I actually think that the best form here might be through Farclat, who's a jukebox jury gelding with Gordon Elliott, who's running 2 graded races. He's very highly regarded. I mentioned it in one of the other podcasts, the one for the Wednesday, that if you were to watch the split screens of the juvenile race from the Leopardstown meeting, that Farclat was second in at the same time as watching Sam Crows. They near enough hurdle every hurdle at the same time, and the juveniles are right upside Sam Crow when they cross the line. The obvious question is now, why am I not putting up Mr. Adjudicator? But I do think that Cheltenham will suit Farclat more than it suits Mr. Adjudicator. Apple Shakira is obviously an incredibly promising sort. She looks very good, and I know she's very highly regarded. But I think Farclat will run his race. I think he'll be. I'd be very surprised if him. I think he's a more consistent sort than Mr. Adjudicator, so he would be the one that might flop out the bag. I think Farclat's very tough. I think he's very consistent, and I think he'll run a very big race in the Triumph on the Friday.
Farclat is 8-1 with a few firms, Sky Bet and Hills amongst them. Sky Bet, non-runner, no bet. The other ones you can do, get that with 188, 888 and Bet Victor, but you probably don't need it because you think he's probably going to run. Andy, how do you approach this Triumph?
That's one of usually the best trials, the Spring Juveniles, throwing winners down the years like Arcona. They usually go good galloping, it's a grade 1. And it was run at a decent pace. As Mike's already pointed out, I got exactly the same set of numbers. It was similar to Sam Crow. So they're obviously 2 very good juveniles. But I also agree with Mike with at the 2 Farclat. He reminds me of Tiger Roll, who got beat in that race before he went on to Triumph at Cheltenham. I just think the track will suit him better. And he kind of took the running up a little bit too early for him as well. He was almost in front too long. He ran a race back to front like he did the time before when he came off the pace behind Espoir d'Alan. So I think he's a big player. However, I do think the horse that didn't run in the Spring Juvenile missed the gig because I think she had a runny nose. It was Willie Mullins' horse, Stormy Island. I've backed this horse at big prices ever since she won first time out. She won by 57 wickets. It's an unbelievable amount of distance. First time out, you could say, well, everything else must have been rubbish, but her time figure that day was absolutely unbelievable. Propelled her by a mile to the head of my speed figures for juvenile. And even though she's only had 1 run, she's done a time in keeping with what I normally get Triumph Hurdle winners doing. And there's a potential of obviously her improving even more. She's got a much better time figure just with 1 run than Apple Shakira's done in 3. And she's available back at almost double or treble the price. So I'm a big fan of her. I certainly wouldn't rule out We Have a Dream. He's the opposite. He's a little terrier, a little street fighter. He did well to beat Sussex Ranger when he won the Grade 1 at Chepstow. He's a good hurdler, very sharp, and I think he'll go well. So I'd be very, very keen to take on Apple Shakira if I was a bookmaker, because I think you've got Farclat, Mr. Adjudicator, We Have a Dream, and Stormy Island, who's going to be taking these into areas where they're not used to. So I've backed We Have a Dream at a massive price, and I've also backed Stormy Island.
We Have a Dream is 9-1 now with Betfair. Stormy Island best price 8-1. Interestingly, we do a competition with bookmakers traders where we ask them all to we give them a certain allocation of points and they choose their anti-post bets. Bet365 allocated 8 of their points, 8-point win to We Have a Dream, and fittingly they go 5-1. So obviously some other people out there agreeing with you there. I want to touch on a couple of other horses. Saldio is obviously an interesting horse who won first time out for Willie Mullins the other day. I want to know how you guys...
Absolute desperate time. That wins the Triumph Hurdle, I'll eat that mic.
I'm a huge fan of Rhodesian, to be honest.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I think Alan King knows what a good juvenile is, and he's had plenty over the years, and I know how much he holds this horse in high regard. So he's got plenty of gears, hasn't he? And he's straightforward, and settles well. I suppose the jumping was the question mark, but he was much better the last day, and he's just. I thought he was. good enough to be able to jump round in the Triumph. And I just really like him. I think he's got a lot of class, and been really impressed with him, and I think he'll run a big race.
Nick?
Yeah, I think you need a proper stir for this race. Sarkander's obviously gone the same route as Radishan did, winning the Adonis, coming on to thing, and I thought his jumble was adequate. And for me, the Triumph hurdle, you don't need a horse. You need a horse that jumps well, but it's not such a setter. You only jump 2 hurdles in the last 3 furlongs or 4 furlongs, so you can get away with sort of missing a hurdle and still being. It's a very long run, 2 out to the last. But I've just been massively impressed by Apple's Shakira. The way she seems, the further the race goes, the better she gets, and I just visually, she's just been really impressed me, and just speaking to a few of the Henderson lads at home, that she's held in massive regards, and I can see JB McManus winning this race this year as he did last year.
Nearly 30 lengths in the 3 races, winning distance combined here. Unsurprisingly, given the state of the race between us, I think we have basically tipped up every single horse at the top of the market. So good luck, listener, picking the winner there. But strong cases made for a fair few.